actually got the prescription sent to my phone for my glucose reader before I even got the results of the
Oh
test.
my Lord.
Like I was so scared. I remember just crying, thinking, what did I do? Like, how could this be? It must have been all the cookies I ate over Christmas. I just remember having that knee-jerk reaction. And I told her, I said, well, I probably just won't eat anything until I go to those doctor's appointments. And she says, no, no, don't do that. It was all worth it. Everything, every little sacrifice that you make is so worth it once you hold your baby.
Hi, my name is Julia, and this is the first HIgedi Beyond the Numbers. And I'm here with my first guest, and I'm super excited because she's the only help I have with HIgedi group right now. So let's meet Ellyn. Hi, Ellyn.
Hi guys, how are you?
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Just not about the pregnancy or gestational diabetes, just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So as you said, my name is Ellen. I live in the United States in New Jersey. So I live really close to the beach, which I enjoy going to when I have a free moment. I work in a school. I'm an administrator, so I oversee teachers in their history department, which like now more than ever, history is so important. So I have a really fun job that I'm super passionate about. I have a dog named Itchy who I love. He
Me
is
too.
the first he's the first love of my life. He's a miniature dachshund. He weighs about 12 pounds. I take him everywhere with me. And then my husband and I recently welcomed a baby girl to our family. She's 5 months old now. Her name is Gemma. And we are just absolutely in love. Definitely learning to navigate parenthood, but really enjoying it so far.
Oh, well, let's now jump back to the beginning where the gestational diabetes all started. Do you remember your first day of diagnosis?
I do. So, well, I remember going into, we do the 1 hour test and then we go back and test for the 3 hours if you fail the 1 hour test. And I remember the doctor told me don't go into the 1 hour fasted. So I had a salad with a grilled chicken a few hours beforehand, and I was very confident I was going to pass this 1 hour test. I was like, yeah, there's no way I have gestational diabetes. I feel fine. I exercise. I do this. I do that. So I took the 1 hour test and it came back out of range. So I was like, oh man, I guess I have to go do the 3 hour test. But everybody who failed the 1 hour test told me I'd be fine and I'd pass the 1 hour test or the pass the 3 hour test.
Do
So
you
I
do
took,
you do you actually remember your number on your 1 hour test?
I think it was 147 for some
So
reason
not
because
like not bad at all.
no,
You were
it
very
wasn't
close.
anything crazy. So I had confidence I was going to pass the 3 hour. I was like, there's no way I'm going to fail it. So the 3 hour was right after Christmas time I had to take it. It was because I remember thinking Christmas. I was like, well, I'm gonna enjoy myself just in case this doesn't go well. Um and I took the 3 hour test. That was about 28 weeks for me. And I felt great. Everybody's like, you might throw up, you're gonna be extremely exhausted, you're gonna be very hungry. I felt completely fine. So it was like, oh, another sign that I'll be okay. And when those test results came back, I actually got the prescription sent to my phone for my glucose reader before I even got the results of the
Oh
test.
my Lord. So
So
it, it was it was a bummer, right?
I was like, well, I have a feeling I didn't pass this if I got this prescription. So I was really hard on myself. I remember just crying, thinking, what did I do? Like, how could this be? It must have been all the cookies I ate over Christmas. I just remember having that knee-jerk reaction, like many of us do, just being so upset with
So you kind
ourselves.
of blamed yourself as well for the Christmas and
Definitely.
treating yourself. Did you have any idea about gestational diabetes before that? Like anybody in your like family had it before or? Because for
So
me,
my
like gestation, I had never ever heard about this term at all.
so my mom had had it with my older sister. But my mom had also had a very difficult pregnancy. My mom had been bedridden with my sister. So my mom was like, "You probably don't have it. You'll be fine." The only reason she thinks she had it was because she was stuck in a bed and couldn't really move and food shop for herself and, take care of her diet. But it turns out that that is not the case.
So what happened next? Did your doctor then call you or?
Yes, so my doctor, I had to go meet with my primary OBGYN, who then referred me to the maternal fetal medicine doctor, which is like our high risk doctor. And they kind of just wrapped it up in a very basic package. I still, even when I left the high risk doctor, I didn't really feel like I had that great of information. They kind of just told me the risks that are associated with gestational diabetes. And then it really wasn't until I met with the dietitian that I was referred to through my doctor's office that I felt way more in control. And I felt like I definitely had a better understanding once I left
But
that
did
dietitian's
you have to
appointment.
wait for that long?
About a week.
Oh well,
About
not
a
too
week
bad.
in between. No, it wasn't. I know a lot of people have a hard time. I was very lucky that my the Center for Diabetes is right next to my work. So the school I work in is right next to the hospital. So when she had a cancellation, she actually called me and got me in earlier because she knew that I was very nervous and freaking out. And I told her, I said, well, I probably just won't eat anything until I go to those doctor's appointments. And she says, no, no, don't do that.
I guess so many moms react like that because that's the first reaction. I'm just
Yeah,
not eating and that's going to
yeah,
solve my problems. But
yeah.
that's the opposite.
The exact opposite, which was also really hard to learn about. But once I met with my dietitian, her name was Autumn. I think she was sent to this earth by the gods to really like guide moms like me. She was so helpful and made it so much less scary. And I was able to like even follow up and text with her when I had issues. So she was just really one of the best assets for
Oh
me.
my
And
Lord. I'm like tearing up hearing about it
yeah,
because those
she was
moments when you're
amazing.
like, you're not scared about yourself that much. You're scared about your little one. And that's the worst. You want to get all the help on the planet just to get through
Truly.
it safe, healthy. Did you
Yes.
Google anything before meeting anybody?
Of course.
Do you
And
remember anything particular? Probably some risks or like you were shocked about.
yes, I remember being very scared about having an abnormally large baby. Like I was so scared because in all the growth scans, so like at my 20-week ultrasound, they said she was kind of big too. And then I remember thinking like, oh no, I am really scared. I mean, we all know how babies come out. They come out one of two ways, and I was really scared to have a large baby. Um, and I do remember just Googling the risks, thinking, especially without guidance, seeing a lot of those risks are very scary. Um, but in hindsight, I probably wouldn't Google again.
Well, now I want to show you one photo. Give me a second. So, do you see it?
I can see it.
You see it? I think you don't. Or are you?
I can see that beautiful cake.
Oh
That
well, tell
cake.
me tell me a little bit about the cake because you told me you were scared of eating it. And this is your
Yes.
baby shower, right?
Yeah, so this was the baby shower that my coworkers threw me, which was so beautiful. So working in a school, you become like a family. Um, and they threw me the most thoughtful baby shower, and they got a cake from my favorite bakery. It was a it was chocolate icing with chocolate cake with cannoli stuffing in the middle, which is
Oh,
just so good. And I remember staring at that cake and racking my brain about the resources that I had learned on how I was going to eat it. And I did. And I just remember thinking, like, after that meeting with my dietitian, she told me about safer ways to have a little sweet treat. I have to say, Fairlife protein shakes were a big part of that. Um, I would like that cake. I would take a nice small slice after having a protein shake or something like very protein dense, and then to follow it by a walk, and I was able to manage it. But in Googling prior, I probably would have avoided that cake at all cost.
so you had actually a piece of cake. You walked after, and you were fine. Your numbers were
Com
fine.
Completely in range. Yep.
But did this, like, was this some kind of lesson to you that you could actually sneak in some treats?
Oh, absolutely. In the beginning, I definitely was like more restrictive on myself, not really knowing, and I was scared to experiment. But once I learned the core proteins that worked for me and like how to manage a spike or, like dole one out, I definitely was a little more willing to experiment with some of my foods, and figure out what worked for me, what didn't. Uh, like finding alternative ice creams like the Yasso bars that we also much love. I still eat them. I will say they're still one
Do
of
you
my
have a
favorites.
favorite flavor?
I love the pistachio.
Oh, okay.
Pistachio bars
I'm
is
a
like my
huge
favorite.
pistachio fan. Pistachio ice cream and hazelnut one are my favorite ice creams on earth. So
Yes.
I'm
So
sold.
that I'm still eating. But just finding those little sweet treats and how to manage them into your diet and not feel overly restricted definitely helped make my pregnancy a lot more enjoyable after the diagnosis.
I think that's such a big thing because we're so scared of those, like, the sugar is like an alarm bell over us that if we're gonna have this, we're gonna crash everything. But sometimes gestational diabetes is so unexpected. It's just like, it's not that it was fine with you, other person would do the same. It's not, but like this time frame, this combination, follow with the like with the walk, then the emotional moment of being relieved, happy, that all worked, and you got a good number, and that's what matters. But I'm telling everybody that mental health is so important too, because if we just go down the hill mentally, that just reflects on our numbers so much. So we have to have those little treaty moments that just give us the hope and those little tiny things that matter.
Absolutely. Yeah, mental health is definitely important, especially during what you call a normal pregnancy. It's already hard. And then being told you can't have a sweet treat, forget about it. Very
That's the
difficult.
one, yeah. Oh well, I'm gonna show everybody one more photo. Let me show you this one. Do you see it?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about this, because I know mamas looking at it will look at it and say like, oh my Lord, that's potatoes. And they were like, how on earth? Is it a good dish? Is it a bad dish? Was it like your go-to meal or the one that spiked you the most? Tell me a little bit about it.
So this one ended up being a go-to meal for sure. And this is one of the most savory, delicious meals I've had. I actually saved it off of Instagram Reels way before I was even pregnant. I'm notorious for doing that, like saving something that I will never cook. Um, but I do like to follow recipes. So I had saved this, and we were actually snowed in. And I said to my husband, I said, "Oh, we have steak, some eggs, and some potatoes. We should try to make this dish." Um, so that's really what it is at its core is steak, egg, and potato, with a lot of seasoning mixed in. And of
It looks
course,
delicious.
it was so good. I have to say, I probably ate this meal again. This is something I still eat often. It definitely kept my numbers in range, being super high protein. And I was able to eat some of the potatoes because it was offset by the egg and the steak. And I really had a hard time with my numbers in the morning, as I think a lot of us do. When
Yeah.
it tends
Mm.
to be the highest. So um, I ate pretty low carb in the morning, but I was able to sneak some of these potatoes in with the offset of that high protein. So this was
Did you
definitely,
add some veggies or salad, or it was the main dish that you had?
I normally do. This time, no. This time in particular,
But you were
no.
still okay.
Yes, I was still okay.
Oh, that's what
Um,
matters.
yes, normally I also throw in asparagus with this. Not in this particular case though, because the asparagus can just cook off on the top afterwards. But no, and this is still one of my favorite meals. And yes, I was able to eat some potatoes. My body, luckily, reacted decently well to potatoes. I had a really hard time with rice, which is difficult because I love Mexican-based dishes. I like to eat a lot of like rice bowls and stuff when I'm not pregnant. So I was more of a potato girl and less of a rice girl during my pregnancy for sure.
And you also told me that your husband made that deal, that dish. Sorry.
Yeah, he
Oh,
did.
lucky you. But I want to ask, did your husband change his diet as well because of your diagnosis, or you just kept eating, I don't know, different foods or just some different ratios?
So, because I worked through the majority of my pregnancy, breakfast and lunch we always eat separate breakfast and lunch because I eat at work, because I do get to work very early. But dinners, he followed my diet, which wasn't that different than what we normally ate. Definitely just had to learn. I have to say, I was very guilty of eating a naked carb. So I did have to learn, like, I can't just sit and have a bowl of pasta. I have to learn that, I'd eat some meatballs with a small side of protein pasta with a salad. So it wasn't completely cutting out the things that I loved or was already eating, just learning to work around them. And my husband did that as well. He's actually the cook in the family. So he had to learn how to cook for me and my dietary needs. But I think
What a
uh
lucky girl. What a lucky girl. You're real lucky to have such a husband cooking for you and like honestly respecting
yes,
respecting the dad. Oh,
yes.
well,
He
I
he
guess the
learned a lot
health of the
too.
baby and you matters for the entire family, not just mamas.
Yeah, and he was very good, and he was also good with like checking in on my mental health as well, because he knows how hard I took the diagnosis at first. But he really was the rock through the whole thing.
Well, and with gestational diabetes, we talk so much about exercise. So let me let me pull one more thing. So this is you, and oh my gosh, this is 38 weeks of pregnant woman in a gym. Tell me about it. You
Yes.
told me that you're like naturally active person. But did gestational diabetes change the way you approached exercise, or you just did all the same as you would normally do?
Um, it changed a little bit. I definitely incorporated more cardio. I am definitely more into weightlifting, which can actually spike your numbers, which was something I had to learn about too. But I incorporated a lot more cardio and I actually changed what time of the day I normally work out. So I used to work out when I would get home from work and before dinner. After being diagnosed, I made it a point to switch to working out after dinner because I would usually have my most carb heavy meal at the end of the day with dinner. So I made it a point to just make sure that I could head to the gym afterwards, get in at least a nice walk, if not like a little weight training session. And that also did wonders for my post-dinner meals. Of course, I missed just relaxing and watching a TV show, but I thought getting out and walking was definitely a little more important. And I also got myself a nice free treadmill where
Tell me about it. Tell me about it, because you mentioned snow and the treadmill that you got off Facebook.
Yeah, so we have not had snow like this in so many years. And this was a historically snowy winter where we were getting 2 to 3 feet of snow. It was kind of nice because I didn't have to shovel myself out being pregnant. My husband did all that. But because of that, I was scared that I wouldn't be able to make it to the gym. So I went on Facebook. I scrolled through Facebook Marketplace. I found myself a nice free treadmill that somebody was trying to get rid of. And I conned my husband into going to pick it up the next day. So then we have a nice treadmill in the basement, which still gets great use when the baby's napping. I can sneak away, do a quick 20, 30 minute walk
I
whenever I
was
get the
about to ask, do
chance.
you still use it? But do you enjoy walking
Yeah.
over, like, overall?
I do. I especially enjoy it now because it is like a little bit of alone time for myself, but just finding a really good podcast or an audiobook. I find music actually makes it go slower because you're just like listening song to song. But when you have something that you can follow for a long duration, like an audiobook, I think it makes the time fly by and you won't even know that you've walked for 20 minutes. Like it feels like you just got started.
Oh, well, now let's go to the a little bit more hard part of the gestational diabetes. What was the hardest for you?
I'm very social. So definitely being in social settings and monitoring my food intake. I think that that was very hard for me. And in the beginning, even just sharing that I had gestational diabetes was very tough, with my friends and family. I mean, of course, nobody was judgmental, but it's something, it feels like a stigma on yourself, like you did something wrong. So that was really difficult
But
for
did
me.
did you tell everybody? Did they try to, I don't know, help you somehow, or they were just by your side, just supporting you?
A lot of people asked questions, I guess, which made it a lot more helpful because I got a chance to talk about gestational diabetes and kind of just, you know, debunk some of those myths that people talk about with gestational diabetes. So it kind of made me feel a little more empowered in sharing information. Was like, I felt like it was part of my goal was to help negate some of that negative misinformation around it. So I felt like once I felt comfortable talking about it, then I used it in my social setting as like a platform to share with all my friends, you know. I am the first of my friend group to really have kids. So, you know, I want my friends to know when they eventually have kids, if they have gestational diabetes, it's not the end of the world.
But did somebody like try to talk you into having something kind of like, don't worry, you're gonna be
Oh,
fine, have a treat, have like, it's not gonna kill you or whatever, those myths that are like going along
yeah, all the
the Google.
time.
Yeah.
A
That's
lot.
the hard part.
Yeah, it is. I have to say, like, I would make it a point to just kind of meal prep some of my own foods, to always have with me, or bring like a really easy, safe protein, cottage cheese, like the little individual cottage cheese containers. I would always bring those in a lunch. Everybody laughs about my lunchbox. It really should be featured on this because I used to bring my lunchbox with me everywhere with my safe snacks, with my cottage cheese, with my cheese sticks, with my meat sticks, with my protein shakes. And I would bring those with me. If there was something that I really wanted to indulge in, I'd have a small bit, but I would really try to, pair it with one of my safe snacks and not really listen to what people say because a lot of people were misinformed. So trying to keep myself on the straight and narrow and think about is it really worth it?
But do you remember your highest reading? And
Yes.
what did you feel?
I definitely remember my highest reading. It was 185, 2 hours after eating, and it was in a social setting where I was out. And I remember taking it thinking, like, this can't be right. This is really, really high. And then we actually tested my husband's blood sugar and his was normal. So I was like, oh no, this probably is pretty accurate. And I felt horrible. I immediately felt like a headache, very thirsty, very drowsy. And I just remember thinking, oh man, I can't do this again. It was a tough one.
And what did you do? Did you
Um,
know
it
exactly what to do, or you were like, oh my God, what shall I do now?
it was pretty early in like my gestational diabetes journey, so I can say that I probably wasn't as well equipped as I would have been towards the end. I did drink a ton of water, and I came home and I hopped on the treadmill, and I remember walking and walking and walking and walking and walking, thinking that it would instantly bring it down. It did not, but it did slowly start to go down as it was later in the evening. It had been a dinner, and by the time the morning came, everything was fine. My fasting was back to normal. I monitored it a few times after, every hour or so, just to make sure it was trending down and not back up. Um, but it ended up being fine. And I definitely took that as a learning lesson.
And I know so many mamas are gonna go and ask, were you diet controlled or you were on like insulin or medicine?
I was diet controlled. Not that day, but I was diet controlled.
Oh, oh well, spikes happen. Like it happened.
Yeah.
Like everybody gets them. Like I'm telling everybody that even mamas without gestational diabetes, they do get them, but they just don't know that they are getting the spikes. It just what matters is that we're in range most of the times. And
Yes.
if we spike, it comes back down quickly enough. So we keep our babies safe.
I remember being scared to put it on my log and tell my doctor. But I wasn't going to lie because I knew that if I needed something to help, I should get something. So I remember bringing it up to my doctor because I used to highlight all the overs in yellow so at a quick glance they could see. And I remember her just saying to me, did you know you were going to spike? And I said, well, I probably knew I was going to spike. She's like, well, what did you eat? I said, oh, I went out to a restaurant and I had pasta. And she said, yeah, I probably could have told you you would have spiked too. I'm not overly concerned about it. She's like, it's those patterns
Yeah, yeah.
and the spikes that shouldn't be happening that are happening that I'm a little more concerned about, not that one off.
And then happened this moment.
Ah, the best moment of all.
Yes. What did you feel? Was it like a relief, or what was going on in your head when you were finally holding her?
Oh, that it was all worth it. It was all worth it. Everything, every little sacrifice that you make is so worth it once you hold your baby. And it is a feeling like no other, truly. And yeah, I mean, I was even testing in the hospital. I remember just thinking like, when is this going to be over? When is this finger pricking going to be over? And as soon as she was born, I forgot that that even existed.
That's the magical moment, right? The one we are all so desperately hoping to hold the safe, healthy baby in our arms. And then, like, it's a memory. Even if during the diagnosis you say to yourself, never again, I'm not going to go through that. That moment when you're holding this baby, you're probably going to say, I'm going to do it again. If needed, I'm going to go through the same thing again and
Exactly.
again.
Yeah,
Now,
every so worth it.
if you would go back to yourself on that diagnosis day, what would you say to yourself?
Take a deep breath. Definitely take a deep breath. Um, Knowledge is power. Read from reliable sources, not from Dr. Google. And be patient and kind to yourself too, because, a lot of us are navigating gestational diabetes for the first time, and nobody's perfect. And it's important to, be flexible with yourself. And at the end, it's all worth it.
Okay, to before we wrap it up, I have a few like quick questions. You can just answer one word. Is it okay?
Yep.
Okay. Your favorite protein shake brand?
Fairlife. Chocolate.
Got it. Your favorite protein bar?
Mm. Quest. Probably the s'mores flavor.
Cheese or eggs?
Cheese.
I'm with you. Your favorite snack?
Probably cheese sticks. And still.
Really?
Everybody says that they'll never eat one again after pregnancy, but I still love them.
But what was your favorite, biggest pregnancy craving?
Mm, ice cream.
The same. We are running.
Yeah.
I still had like ice cream. I made so much cottage cheese ice cream, but that wasn't the same. I wanted to
No.
have my favorite brand, unlimited, like all in.
And
And
I
what
wasn't a big ice cream eater before pregnancy, but when I was pregnant, lots of ice cream.
and what was your first dream meal after everything was over and you could just indulge?
Pizza. Like unapologetically eating pizza, not like how I was during pregnancy, eating a small slice, walking with a salad and grilled chicken. Just pizza.
Yeah, I remember my first pizza eating as well. Like I could actually eat the crust and not pair it with salad and not ask for an extra cheese.
Yeah.
That was a good moment.
It
Oh well,
definitely
and
is.
if you had to describe, like say, sum up your gestational diabetes journey in one word, what would you say?
A roller coaster.
Has gestational diabetes changed your life now, today?
I still eat a very balanced diet. I actually took a lot of the information I learned from the dietitian and I still apply it. I don't eat naked carbs anymore. I don't uh I usually try to walk after my meals. I used to walk before my meals. I try to walk after. I feel better eating in this diet, honestly.
Oh, well, Ellyn, thank you so much for having me. And it was a pleasure to meet you. I know people
Yes.
would probably expect that we have talked to each other plenty of times, but it was actually our first time meeting. Yeah, via camera, but still meeting. So really pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I look forward to continuing on the page and seeing all the great things that we do together.
Let's keep going.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Thank you.
Of course. I was
And
nervous. I'm sweating.